Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, let's talk about an interesting person, and a lot of you youngums out there don't probably remember or connect much with him, and that is Hal Puthoff of SRI fame. Usually he is mentioned along with Russell Targ and a few other people. Being the main researchers into the CIA program, which turned out to be involved in remote viewing, which has spurred all the interest in that in modern times. And they were the private organization that tested many people. Joseph McConnell, Uri Geller. These are the people that tested him and proved him to be a legitimate and powered person, as well as so many others. Pat Rice, the famous and who Russell Targ claims to be the finest psychic he's ever met and was amazing with remote viewing. And so many others over a span of, and I'm not sure if he was involved for 20 years, but there was research going on, particularly by Hal Puthoff, the person you don't hear much about and who's been relatively silent. Now, Russell Targ has written many books, and I'm going to be doing another little video on him. Hal Puthoff, of course, worked in with the military almost from day one, from graduating from college and then going on and getting advanced degrees. So I believe he worked for the Navy and was a researcher and very much into lasers, which were very new at the time he was involved. And so was Russell Targ. Russell Targ was big into the development of what we considered modern lasers. And I'm assuming Hal Puthoff was into that as well. But he came from what considered to be a very conservative background, kind of. But, the whole idea is once you bite the bullet, you get on the injection of CIA money, and you buy into their evil path. You become a slave for life, and that's exactly what happened to him. So, before we go on, do you have a question for Yoda? You need something answered? Think about it and let Yoda give you guidance you need.
Difficulty. Always emotion is the future. Always with you, it cannot be done.
Always with you, it cannot be done. But the whole idea is that Hal Puthoff has stayed in the background while Russell Targ was much more vocal, did a lot of different, wrote many books. Hal Puthoff, I believe, wrote one or two books, one of them with Targ, and has not been vocal at all, hasn't done too many interviews until recently. Hal Puthoff is 88 years old right now and seems to be doing fairly well. And certainly, as he stated on one interview, because he is running a for-profit con game, which is investigating and being a butt plug for the CIA. With Hal Delon, the Blink 182, and a few other people that are involved in that organization, which is nothing more than a disinformation organization. But it has been set up as a for-profit corporation, and one of the founding directors was, guess who? Hal Puthoff, who's been directly connected to Bigelow Aviation, another guy linked to the Pentagon, and all the usual culprits there, which all lead to Colonel Alexander of the U.S. Army, who has been investigating, tracking, and reporting back on anybody who has any kind of abilities. Certainly, if you find stink of a metaphysical type, you're going to find Colonel Alexander there, and he's going to turn that over to his other stinking buddies, particularly Hal Puthoff. Now, it appears that Russell Targ, to some degree, got fed up with it all when his good friend Pat Price, Pat Price, who was a some sort of police commission out of Burbank or whatever, mysteriously died while in the hands of the CIA. Now, Russell Targ believes that he was killed by the CIA. So from that point on, I believe he left SRI and working with the CIA, and I don't know if he ever returned or not. I'd have to look into that. But of course, Hal Puthoff didn't do any of that and kept on working with talented people that they recruited and basically did little or nothing to. I'm not sure hardly anybody made any money from this. They like to wave the flag in front of your face and you give them free information in your free time, but you don't get anything out of it. This kind of attitude is horrendous and, of course, further hurts metaphysically empowered people because they are not appreciated and paid for their amazing services. Secondly, we have a bunch of blind leading the blind, where we have these kind of, while educated, whatever that means, engineering physics types. They don't have any understanding of metaphysics and make poor researchers in this area in general. And Hal Puthoff certainly is one of those. And Hal Puthoff has been directly linked to disinformation campaigns to discredit metaphysics and other things. So he's far from has clean hands in any of this. He started several organizations, one of them, of course, which he's been involved with out of Austin, Texas. That ought to tell you something as well, where all the other criminal organizations come from, Texas. His family is invited. He's got two sons who are probably in their, 60s now, because he's 88 now. He's almost, he's going to be 90 soon here. And he was just on the Joe Rogan show, if you want to catch up on that and check him out on Joe Rogan's to see what he said for 2 hours, which, let me give you a preview. Nothing new. Certainly nothing new. Old information that's 50 years old. Yeah, a couple of old information that's 50 years old. Several disinformation statements that he knows is not true. So the whole idea is that this is what you're going to get from this guy. And it's really pathetic. And what is the point of it all? If we're going to have research done that we get no benefit of it, that all we get from it is the spewing of pew that we get out of the dumb bunkers, such as the imbecile, unamazing Randy, as I call him, and his cohorts of stooges like Banachek, who think that just because they can trick you, that somehow somebody else can't do it for real. That's like saying that everything you see on TV is not real. So if you see a dramatization of, let's say, an operation where somebody has could be something minor done on an well, that's just fake. It was done on TV, so you can't do that for real. That's fantasy. You just think it is. So this is the kind of thinking you get out of the dumb bunkers and the entire organizations out there that have been perpetrating lies and deceit upon the world population, creating a very crimes against humanity reality, because we never get ahead in these areas that are crucial to look at and find out the validity of them and how they can be implemented into common society. So he, like everybody else that signs their little papers and wants to become slave to the government so they can keep everything secret. And here at 88, we have absolutely no information from any of the programs he's done of any value whatsoever. Now, Russell Targ wrote a few books which gave you some information, but not still, again, anything overly detailed. And it's the same old stories that have been cleared by the CIA of what they talk about. That is remote viewing submarines, which turned out to be true. Now, how true any of that is, I don't know. I don't believe anything I'm told. That McConnell viewed what appeared to be submarines, and then they looked at it later and they said, yeah, this was the submarines he thought he saw. Who knows if any of that stuff is true? The problem is Joseph McGonigal was filmed by a documentary made by Reader's Digest, I believe in the early 80s or late 70s. I'm still trying to find that again. Which had him, they brought him in on a famous murder case of a young child. And they had a psychic, a well-known psychic, they brought in McGonigal. And McGonagall got absolutely everything wrong. The psychic got absolutely everything right. Isn't that interesting? He got the whether the person was alive wrong. He got the color of the car this person was taken in wrong. Yet the psychic got it all right. So I don't know what is done or not, but I'm not a big fan of McGonagall, and I don't think he's achieved much of anything. And I don't have any trust for these monkey military-headed stooges that are out there thinking they can do something metaphysical when they're just basically government murderers and losers. That's the only reason you go in the military is because you're a loser. So the whole idea is that, and then work for fascists for their police. You're not doing service for your country. You are a slave of whomever the political person in there is, and you're a tool of their barbary and murderous ways. That's what you do when you're in the military. So this is a serious issue that we all need to understand at a bigger and better level. Now, um, so when we look at Hal Puthoff, who has now been verified, and I think it was under 2 or 3 occasions that he actually put out disinformation for the CIA. As I said, he's nothing more than a butt plug for the CIA. It's as simple as that. And he's done nothing. As I said, he's got companies that are now still run by his 2 elderly sons. In Austin, Texas, and a company that he owns, which gets large grants. He's also invested in that Tom DeLonge's, the Blink 182 or whatever the hell it is, organization that is a direct mouthpiece for the CIA, along with all the other people involved with that. And then it escapes me now. The name of this other guy, Alexandro or whatever, who's come out with one bad piece of information other than the other, one after the other. And of course, Tom DeLonge's father is a oil company executive, and he's in the military town of San Diego where he grew up. Or at least the suburbs of San Diego. So the whole idea is this is the reality that everybody needs to understand of what's going on here. So he didn't put together a good organization. They've come up with absolutely nothing. They have these, what they call these tic-tac idiot photos that are meaningless to anybody that have been around for 30, 40 years. And of course, he brings up the same old cases and the same old things. And for 2 hours, he danced around everything and only gave information that was well known to the public already. Why bother talking with him anyway? And very typical of Joe Rogan, who has a very low level of education in these areas and certainly doesn't seem to want to be aggressive with people like this. With all his money and everything else, you'd think he'd have some backbone. All he does, I beat stuff all day. Yeah, I want to fight from day one. So, he's always practicing martial arts. He's always beating something. But when it comes down to really doing something in an interview and playing a little bit of hardball with these people and at least putting them up against a wall and say, what about all this? Who cares about something that happened 50 years ago? That's been repeated 500 times. It's the same old story, and they all do it, just like Jeffrey, no proof allowed. Mishlove does the same damn thing, bring on all his 80-year-old buddies who talk about the same old stupid cases over and over again with not a single shred of proof, not a demonstration, not a picture, nothing. So typical of that weasel Mishlove. And now we're going to have a movie by him about the PK Man, which happened 40 years ago. Yeah, it's nice having that modern stuff, ain't it, Missy Love? Just because you're ready to croak and so is your little buddy Hal Puthoff, you run into the same problems. And of course, Miss Love has always supported people that are the lowest category, Persian Nazis and Satanists. He seems to love to highlight those people. But the point is that Hal Puthoff has done absolutely nothing. And he will never, he's 88, he's not going to write a book talking about anything. And books can't be published just because you want to. His kids are involved in government contracts. If they want to make money and continue to make money, they're going to have to shut their mouth and do what the government tells them in a good CIA butt plug way that you do things. So the whole idea is that's the reality that we're looking at. And of course, even in almost 2.5 hours, I think it was 2 hours, 18 minutes, I'm not if I remember correctly. This guy said absolutely nothing. And of course, Joey Rogan knows it well. Did nothing about it because he's not a very good interviewer, period. He likes to let people state facts and he doesn't ever come back and ask any really serious questions. If he likes it, he accepts it. And if it gets good ratings, he believes it. He was the first one really to come out and say that all psychic abilities and similar type abilities were all nonsense because his buddy Banachek in Las Vegas could do the same thing psychics do. Well, that's his feeble mind. And now he's trying to go back on this, saying, well, there's a lot of people that copy psychics and make money off of you. Yeah, there's a lot of people who copy that they are actual interviewers and make hundreds of millions of dollars that have no talent whatsoever, that their main course of study is beating a drum or kicking a bag all day. So the whole idea, it's sad that we have people of that low of a mentality that are given millions of dollars, but that's why they're given hundreds of millions of dollars, I should say. And of course, people should do some research and have a good number of questions ready to ask people from their research to get them to respond, not just to sit there for 2 hours and basically one fart after another with no substance to it. So, and that's exactly what you get from these people that are going to. Now, why he did this and why he went out, I don't know. He probably was hawking his, trying to get more money to be made there, etc. But he has nothing to say. He's been on 2 or 3 shows that I've seen recently, and on not a single one of those 3 shows has Hal Puthoff said anything of value. And there must be things you can talk about, or at least in an indirect manner, to give people a little hint of what's going on. Not Mr. Coward of all cowards. So he started off in the plug reality of the military at the beginning of his career, and he's ending that because everything he's ever done in his life has been directly or indirectly connected to military government money. And it's really sad, but that's the way the world is, and it's not going to change. That's why I'm not in favor of any governmental money going to any of these kind of pseudo-scientific programs or doing any kind of research into metaphysics, because that information will not be released to the people who paid for it. It's going to only go to a select group of people within the intelligence community that most of them don't believe in any of it. And when they get this kind of information, they keep it to themselves and don't seem to work out anything of value. We still have all sorts of strange and unbelievable types of psychic attacks and different type of particle beam type weapons, yet we know nothing about it and apparently have no protections for it. All of these things are kept from the public, and generally, all these secrets that we have, the only people benefiting from it are nobody except the intelligence community that thinks they're special because they have information that hasn't been released to the public. As we know, it's a sewer of incest in the intelligence agencies, and people are bought off and are working for criminals. So whatever they learn is only kept for their personal benefits, but we pay for it all as taxpayers. This has to all stop, but it never will. And here we go again, a guy who's 88 years old. I think Russell Targ, if I'm correct, is 91. So the point is all of these people, interestingly, have lived fairly long, but have released fairly nothing. And this will continue with all these products as we've had things like anti-gravity. It must be going on 50 years now, where it has been proven, and there are many witnesses, including myself, to military anti-gravity planes, but you won't hear a thing about it. So this is unfortunate. And it just shows you how long these things go on. Here's a guy that's 88. He's been working in these fields for at least 50 or 60 years, and absolutely nothing has come out because it would be terrible to state that, yes, psychic powers are real. And you don't have to give details. And of course, how do you replicate this anyway? But none of these people say anything except Russell Targ does allude to it. He has written several books. talking about these things to a degree, but all of the sensitive information is kept in areas. And one interesting thing about old Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ is that they were big Scientologists. This is when Scientology was really, really big, and everybody was in it, paying a fortune to it in the 70s and 80s, where Scientology was a major force by a lot of people who spent a lot of money and spent a lot of time there. Those people who didn't feel overly religious seem to have ran to Scientology, as Russell Targ did, as Pat Price, the most powerful psychic per Russell Targ, another member of Scientology. They all were part of it. And Hal Puthoff gives a huge amount of credit to Scientology for empowering him and making him feel bulletproof and invulnerable, and teaching him how to, now apparently he's a remote viewer. Russell Targ claims that he has really never done it to any great extent. Hal Puthoff claims that he's able to do it all the time himself personally. And this obviously is what indoctrinated him to get into metaphysical research as well, was the fact that of this Scientology training, which has a lot to do with the occult sciences, because L. Ron Hubbard was a big occultist who then mainstreamed things so he could sell it to the public, and did a great job on it. And as much as people want to laugh at and criticize Scientology, they have and had a huge number of people that love their training. And he was one of them. He was a great supporter of Scientology, and he got a great amount out of that. Now, he supposedly left sometime in the 80s. I think this had mostly to do with the fact of that you really can't operate as a Scientologist and also do any secret work, because Scientology requires you to reveal every aspect of your life. Every drop of spit you ever created, they want to know where it went and who created that. So we have all of that in the bigger picture to look at as well. And so he dropped out, so did Russell Targ, etc. Now, Pat Price never did, and he apparently was giving secret information to Scientology, and this may have facilitated his death as a person who was giving secret information to a organization he was not supposed to, and he may have been killed to silence him. But it is interesting that Hal Puthoff, Russell Targ, and Targ, and Pat Price, these are all big-time Scientologists. Now, the bottom line is Hal Puthoff went to the highest possible level of Scientology. So he reached that level, which I believe was level, is it 7 or 8 at the time? I don't think they ever finished 8, so he reached the highest level. And like most people, when they reach that level, they find out that there isn't much to Scientology, because there are no miracle or extreme empowerments in life. These are things that are tried, and rarely are they successful. So when they get up to those levels, they found out that they are not. But Scientology makes you believe that you are kind of this invincible super being when you get to this level. Now, I believe, as I said, that he is still a great supporter of Scientology's teachings and their practices. And I believe he was more coerced to leave by the intelligence agencies, and particularly after the what is the apparent murder of Pat Price, that he then dropped out of Scientology, as did Russell Targ, as these all came to light. So that's very interesting to find out. Here's yet another, and here you have a metaphysical research organization of very educated scientific people, and they're all high-level Scientologists. I think that's something really to look at and to figure out if something is going on there. It appears that Scientology has crested, and after many, many years of horrible treatments of people and everything else, that Scientology is now something that isn't overly followed. A whole group of Scientologists have been going out trying to stop Scientology, and seems to have been fairly successful. But we don't really know in the bigger picture. There's an awful lot of people who have gave literally hundreds of millions of dollars to Scientology and continue to do so. And while they aren't as big as they used to be because of their really psychotic treatment of their students, or so it appears, I don't know how true any of this stuff is. Certainly, there's enough people that have ran into problems that that Scientology is in great question. But in general, it's been highly supported and still is, and has literally hundreds of billions of dollars in assets that they still have. So it means they could virtually go on forever without even hardly picking up any new people. Certainly, they've been criticized enough to think, well, something must be wrong, but I don't know. It's really hard to say. They've also, the people who are criticizing tend to have been made successful because of Scientology, whether they're actresses or business people or anything else. There's an awful lot of Scientologists that are extremely wealthy, and Scientology, I can pretty much guarantee, was directly involved in that process, particularly in Hollywood, where they have an awful lot of people who owe jobs to them and who they wield a lot of power with, so that people get jobs because they are Scientologists. So this is all part of the understanding that what's really going on. But Hal Puthoff was a big part of this. So was a lot of other people. So it's quite interesting that the two top researchers and their main psychic were all high level, eighth level or seventh level Scientologists. Is quite fascinating that this went on, and how big of an influence they were at those particular times, pretty much from the 70s, probably all the way up to the year 2000, where they were a major force in many, many people's lives. And these are not just bumpkins off the street, because Scientology didn't like them anyway. I mean, if you want to become a Scientologist, you better open your pocketbook, because they want a lot of money from you. And it's as simple as that. And if you don't do it, you are not part of the organization. So people must have thought something good was going on to pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars, take out second mortgages and everything else that goes with that, just to support Scientology. So something is going on there, something that needs to be noted and followed up, especially when top government scientists get involved. But why the government would allow anybody within the intelligence agencies to be part of an organization like that is insanity, because they want everything from you, and all the research they were doing wasn't given to the public. But I can guarantee you that they passed on anything they knew to Scientology, because that's required if you're a member, which is the reason why they all ultimately quit, because they had to, not because they wanted to. But what was given up in the meantime? How much information was given to Scientology before they quit? Until next time.